Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Can we talk faith for just a bit? Thomas Aquinas said this, one of my favorite quotes. He says, to one who has faith, no explanation is necessary. To one without faith, no explanation is possible. And as you contemplate that, I want you to think about that in terms of the Democrats. To one who has faith, no explanation is necessary. That's us. To one without faith, no explanation is possible. When you ask yourself, why am I not able to explain something to these idiot Democrats, these progressives, these agnostics, these atheists, these doubters, these disbelievers, non-believers, whatever you want to call them, you just got your answer. They don't have any faith. Who can they trust? I talked about this the other day. Who can they possibly trust? Barack Obama was their God, and he has failed them miserably. Hillary Clinton was to replace him as their God. She has failed them miserably. Who can they trust? Who do you trust? Do you trust Donald Trump? Yeah, I ask it that way. Do you trust Donald Trump? I don't trust Donald Trump. I trust in the faith that God has put inside of Donald Trump, because I trust that he actually is going to do something for us. And by the way, he already has. But I don't trust Trump. No way. I trust a bigger power. I trust a higher power that got Donald Trump elected. And there are many of you, look, this is not a Bible study here. I'm not preaching. I mean, I am, but I'm not a preacher. But I'll tell you this, many of you believe that there was divine intervention in getting Donald Trump elected. And the more you're going to learn, the more you will understand God's hand in this man's election. Holy cow. Hallelujah. I need a choir behind me. Hey, Lord, preacher, Mr. Kevin. Man, you better have some faith, baby. And the faith is not in President Trump. It's not in his staff. It's not in any of that. That's putting faith in man. Man, I got no faith in men. No offense, guys. The girls, none of you. I don't have any faith in you. I have faith in something that guides us. By the way, don't have any faith in me. Am I giving you who I am? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean you have to trust it. That doesn't mean you have to, that Kevin Jackson, I'm going to drink my coffee, trusting everything he says. No. You trust but verify, because the only thing that you can completely put your faith in is the higher power, however you want to proclaim that. I happen to believe in God, and I don't mind saying it. And I know this isn't a religious radio program, but I want you to feel that you can say that you can be empowered by that. And it doesn't make you some holy roller, doesn't make you sanctimonious. I am a flawed Christian. I saw an article that Democrats are afraid to share their faith. Senator Chris Coons, Democrat out of Delaware, said Democrat politicians are often more religious than they appear. But they don't share their faith, get this, because of embarrassment. Yeah, I want you to let that sink in for just a second. Democrats don't want their constituents to know who they are because of embarrassment of being Christians. Oh my gosh, you would think these guys are bank robbers. You would think they were derelict fathers. They were wife beaters, drug dealers, sex traffickers. Well, they're probably all of that too, but they don't want to profess their faith. The first thing that you're supposed to do as a Christian, one of the things you should be doing as a Christian is telling people about your faith. It's supposed to strengthen you. Somebody sees you and they go, "Oh, Kevin, what are you doing?" I know, I'm a Christian. We're supposed to help each other, strengthen each other. You surround yourselves with people who are, by the way, very flawed like you. But you strengthen each other because you get around each other, and that faith is what makes you go, okay, I'm going to fight that temptation, man. Yeah, because I'm with my boys, and these aren't the boys I used to hang out with. As the Bible says, when you were a child, I had childish ways. When I became an adult, I gave up my childish ways. Somebody give me the scripture for that so I can sound like I know something, okay? But you put people around you who you believe are equally yoked, that are seeking better, so you do better. You don't hang around drug dealers and child pornographers and all that unless that's your bag, baby. Democrats afraid to profess their faith. Coons made the comments in the Church Politics podcast in a joint interview that included Senator James Lankford, a Republican out of Oklahoma. And what did Coons say? One of the things that I found most powerful in my life is the witness and the leadership of people who bring their faith to work, who talk about how their faith inspires them to challenge injustice, to try and make the world a better place. And I'm concerned, frankly, that more and more Democrats feel embarrassed about or uncomfortable with sharing anything about their faith and how it connects to their service. Some of the most progressive members of the Senate, members I'm very close to, don't ever talk about how it was with their experience of faith when they were children and motivated them to get into public service and politics in the first place. Let me tell you why, people. Because they became scoundrels. They lost their faith. They lost their way. And they don't want to profess their faith because too many people know how they are. Too many people know they are self-indulgent. Anything that they've ever wanted that they didn't believe they would ever be able to have, they now have at their disposal. It's easy to get. You want to be with little boys? I'll get them. You want to be with little girls? I'll get them. You want to be with prostitutes? I'll get them. You want to screw around? You want to get money for doing nothing? You want to, embezzle? You want to insider trade? You can have it all. It's the devil up there, man. It's the devil in D.C. That's why they don't want to do it. Just be honest. Guy says, one of the things that motivated me to write this article is an increasing concern that if young people in America are looking at different role models, different heroes, and they don't ever hear from those whose politics are progressive, that they see any connection between the values of the gospel and politics, they assume they are secular. They're not in any way connected to God's thirst for righteousness and justice. So what was this all about? Coons was addressing a 2017 Pew report, U.S. Politics and Policy, that said 44% of self-identified liberal Democrats believe the church's impact on society is negative. So 80% of America is pretty much pious, which shows you how big the anti-church movement, the anti-Christian movement is in America. And it's almost all centered on the left. Democrats should be ashamed of themselves, but they're too stupid to be ashamed of themselves. Anyway, we got more to talk about. Keep it here, folks. Back.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful four-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. I saw an article, and it was a shocking reasons for juvenile crime. And we touched on it a little bit early on. It's probably been a couple weeks ago. And I just gave you guys some ideas about the amount of crime being committed by youth and things like this. And I just sort of outlined a few things that should make you a little fearful of how leftism has infiltrated the society at large and its impact on our youth. And this was a 12 News report, and here's what they wrote. They says, we wanted to know why. Statewide, in the past 5 years, there have been 373,000 plus youth arrests. Of those, 18,904 are under the age of 12 years old. So roughly 19,000, okay? While every day young people are committing crimes and officials are standing behind a podium telling us about it, 10 investigates wanted to reach out to the ones causing the crimes, asking them why. So over the past year, they said we mailed out more than 100 questionnaires to young people in prison, ranging from 18 to 20 years old. All of the men and women we reached out to had lengthy criminal histories as juveniles. We asked them questions like how old they were when they committed their first crime, to what could your parents, teachers, law enforcement have done. Every time we mailed out a handful within days, responses started to come back. Now, the results. It was a survey of just 11 questions. Geez, what am I doing today? I'm having trouble understanding this stuff. English is tough today for me. Anyway, here was the first question. How old were you when you committed your first crime? 30% said they were under 10. A third, almost. 50% said they were 10 to 12 years old. 20%, 13 to 16. So that's the age group. 30% under 10, 50% 10 to 12, 20% 13 to 16. So these crimes are being committed when these kids are early. 80% under the age of 12. Next question. What made you want to commit the crime? 44% said their friends made them want to do it. 32% said it was because they were bored. 24% said other. One commented he was curious. So what do we got here? Friends and boredom being number one, and 24% other. But 76% is based on friends and boredom, nothing to do, or hanging out with the wrong friends with nothing to do. Here's the next question. What could have stopped you from making bad decisions? 56% said more things to do. 43% said attentive parents. 38% said a different group of friends. Now you can obviously tell that's not a cumulative thing. They could answer multiple questions and get their answer. It wasn't meant to be 100%. What could your parents have done? That's the next question. 72% said paid more attention. 26% said ask more questions. So the common thread here is you got young kids under the age of 12, 80% of them committing, crimes. They're recidivists. They're doing multiple crimes. And overwhelmingly, they were bored, had nothing to do, could have easily been fixed with proper parental guidance. I mean, this is where we are. Okay, the survey goes on. If you committed a crime, were you scared about the trouble you would get into if you were caught? This is going to be a shocker. Let me just ask you guys this. What do you think the percentage of them said we'd be afraid if we got caught? I think it's over 50%. Obviously, it's over 50, okay? Or wouldn't be afraid. Either way you want to look at it. Okay, let's do it this way. How many do you think were afraid of being caught? 10%, 20%, 50%, 90%, whatever. I'm going to tell you right now, it's less than 50%. So would you say 80%? What do you think? Would be afraid of getting caught. That would be a reason for them to stop. You got a guess? You're both wrong. It's actually higher. They're guessing 70 to 80%. No, 100% said they were not afraid of getting caught. 100% of the kids that they sent this survey to. One person commented that they never thought about getting caught or the consequences. Another person commented, I was impulsive. I always did what came to mind, and I only worried about the consequences once I got caught. Now that's something to be thinking about. Because if a person pulls a gun on you, for example, don't think that they're not going to shoot you because they're concerned about the consequences. Goes to say, you might want to tell them, hey, look, you can do what you want, but when they find you, you're going to go to prison for life. Something like that. Wow. When would you get in the most trouble? Was the next question. 54% said during school hours. 42% said after school hours. 38% said nighttime. A lot of people commented on all three times. Would you sneak out of the house? 91% said yes. When we ask how many said that, this is weird, said out their bathroom window, I guess they meant like got out through their bedroom window once their parents fell asleep. I get it. They were asking how did they get out, and they said they got out of their bedroom windows once their parents fell asleep. Here's a good question. Were your parents strict? 44% said yes. Thus, 56% said no. Next one. Were you involved in any activities? 47% said no. A few said they were involved in sports. Others did admit they were involved in church. If the consequences were harsher from the beginning, do you think that would have made a difference? Everybody said yes. What is the one thing a parent, guardian, teacher could have done that may have prevented you from ending up in jail? One person wrote, took time to show me they cared and been a positive influence in my life. Another questioner said, they can all show more kids lots of love. That's the survey. I mean, it's so telling. And when I'm looking at that survey, there's a part of me that just feels really sorry for these kids. Because I'm going to tell you something. We are, as humans, we so crave positive feedback, particularly at a young age. And I don't care how you're cut. You may be a person that doesn't dote on accolades or things like that. But it feels good when somebody, takes a notice and says, you're going to be something. And I'm putting my faith in you. I think you're going to be a good kid or whatever. I cannot tell you how many people said that to me. And I was a good kid. I was helpful. I like doing my chores. I didn't mind things, but I can tell you, it made me feel good when people noticed.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. PA 18, Pennsylvania 18, what's his name? Scacone or something like that. Well, win or lose, it doesn't matter. I had left it the other day and was going, okay, I don't know who's going to win. It was razor thin margin. I was told, the Republicans are supposed to win it handily. Trump carried it, et cetera, et cetera. I've also been told, and this is what I keep telling you guys, when the Democrats can single out a race, they pour millions of dollars in. They said that this his competitor, I forget the guy's name, Pretty Boy Marine, which I don't think he's that hot, but he supposedly outraised the other guy 5-1. So let's say that's the case. He closed the gap with that many points, and he outraised him 5-1, meaning the Democrats came in and they put in 5 times more in that race than they could potentially put in. How many of those races are they going to do that? And then the question I would ask the RNC is, are they going to help? Are they going to respond? Or are the people in those races going to respond? I'm not a type of person who follows politics to that degree, saying, this race is critical versus this race or that race. I look at it as all the races are critical. But there are people out there, like Chris Stirewall at Fox. They love this stuff. They live and breathe it. And right now, the Democrats are pouring more money. You got Denny Starr, whatever this guy's name is, out in California, billionaire, one of these Silicon Valley guys, who's pouring money into select races. I'm talking mega millions of dollars. Races that are so expensive. The one that we won, I forget where it was, but remember that young guy who ran? It was in one, like maybe Arkansas. And we got close. It was a moral victory, but we won. It was a seat we were supposed to win. But they poured millions of dollars into a race that normally might cost $1 million to run. $35 million, I think it was. This race, they've effectively, what they're doing is they're buying politics. And you know what? That's okay. They think they're going to flip the House. They want to flip the House. And then, of course, they hope they can get the Senate back the next time around or whatever. So, but here's what I'm going to tell you. I don't care what happens in Pennsylvania. I'm not even following it, to be honest with you. Whether the Republican wins it or the Democrat wins it, here's what I will guarantee you. In later this year in November, the Congress is going to overwhelmingly re-elect Republicans, and they're going to gain seats. Overwhelmingly so. The Senate on the left is going to get decimated. The Republicans are going to gain tons of Senate seats. And the only thing that we have to focus on, the operatives, the people that make a living winning these races and understanding how they need to be fought, all they have to do is focus on a certain number of key races exactly the way the left is doing and go at it identically the same. That's it. And Donald Trump is going to give enough ammunition. He already has. This race should have been nothing. I don't know what happened because I don't have time to get involved in all of it. I'd like to. I don't have the time. But let me tell you, Donald Trump, if he keeps doing what he's doing, and which he will, and these people get off their butts and stop underestimating the amount of money and the earned media and things that the left are doing, there will be no competition, and I'm predicting they will do it. I'm predicting it will happen. So it doesn't matter what happens here. You guys just leave it alone. Let the left have these victories that they think are going to turn the tide. I keep hearing about the blue tide, blue wave, whatever else. Let them feel that way because it's false hope. See, I was looking at tweets on this, this Pennsylvania race, and I'm presuming the Democrats going to ultimately win it. I know there were absentee ballots or whatever else. I don't know. But whatever the outcome is, here's what you can take from it. The left will learn nothing. They will learn nothing. Understand this about leftism. Leftism does not want to learn. It doesn't want to have the apple cart upset because it's too difficult. It makes they have feeble little minds. And when you try to put something in it, they're like, oh, no, I've learned it this way. They're like, I'll use Monk as an example, even though I don't like to, he's a brilliant guy. The guy that plays, this detective that can look at the things that you and I can't see. But he wears the same clothes. He wears the same, shoes. He has the same habits. He's OCD in how he has to do things. That's the left. Now, they don't do it because they're geniuses. They do it because they've been indoctrinated and they've been kept in line. That's what they do. And they won't learn. I can't try on new clothes because it'll rock the boat. I have to stay conformed exactly the way they want me to be, or else I'm toast. That's what they want. There's a saying that you have to develop a passion for learning or you won't grow. It's a shame that people wait so late in life to go, you know what, I'm going to go back to school, or I'm going to, do something different. There's a point in life where people, I don't know, it's a strange thing, but they sort of stop growing. They no longer listen to music. They no longer take up different things. They say, oh, you know what, I spent all that time in school learning and I'm done. And in fact, the majority of the learning that you're going to do is way outside of school. In fact, Einstein said it's when you give up the knowledge of the so-called education that you truly begin to learn. And that's what should happen. That's what we should be facing right now in this country, is the left should be looking at what happened to Obama, what happened to Hillary Clinton, as a sign to learn something new, to understand why they failed and why Donald Trump and conservatism is successful. Let me explain to you guys the reason why we are going to win and why we have decided enough is enough is because we have always had a willingness to learn. We've analyzed the other side and asked ourselves what's worked. And you know what we came back with in terms of leftism? None of it. It doesn't work. It isn't us being mean-spirited. If socialism worked, we would say congratulations. It works. We have a willingness to learn. We want to understand the world's problems. I was listening to Jordan Peterson, a Canadian psychologist, and he's talking about, just the idea of why is the communication such an important thing? Because the discussion was around all these transgender pronouns. And he says, I'm not using them. You're not going to hijack language and say, oh, okay, there's going to be, Facebook had 51 different genders, and each of those genders is going to create its own set of pronouns, and I'm going to have to learn all the za, z, ear, z, zims, etc. that fit a certain, new fangled way to express oneself. And oh, by the way, as in California and elsewhere, and they're trying to implement this around the world, if you don't use them, you go to prison. I'm not doing it. The idea that if I don't recognize you and the gender that you aspire to and use that exact terminology, you can imprison me is ridiculous. But that's where we are. And so the arguments are, well, you should know. I meet you and I have to know what pronoun to use when there's, some people say it's between 30 to 70 genders, when all I can tell you is this. There are two genders, and then there are mistakes. That's what it is. Either you're a man or a woman, right? Male or female, or you're something that went wrong, and that's okay. Now, it's not an issue for me, but that's what it is. And whether you can morph in certain species will morph into women. I heard something like if you have put two clownfish in a bowl and they're both males, one of them will eventually become a female. And the joke of comedians is, the same thing happens in prison. But the idea that there's more than, you may be able to morph, but in human physiology, it's not the case. I told you guys the other day that, you can, there's no such thing as transgender. I know it may blow some people's mind, but there is no such thing as that. There's never going to be a transgender man who can father children, biologically speaking, and there's never going to be a transgender woman who can have a baby. It's not going to happen. Now, Kevin, they'll put a uterus in, they'll do all these other things. I don't care. They can do all that. But in terms of changing over and that person's physiology being able to have a baby, it's just not the case. But if you say something like that, the LGBT community will get angry with you for speaking the truth. Now, here's the thing. A willingness to learn. I don't know a whole lot about people that have these, sexual dysmorphias or whatever you want to call it. But I'd be willing to sit down and talk to them about it. People are fascinating. To see somebody, and it was funny that Jordan Peterson said this, and it's so true, it made me think of liberalism, but you see somebody struggle to do something that should be easy. That's what he said about people that just have no ability to get a job or whatever. He sees them and he says, it's fascinating to him to watch them because he's trying to understand their pathology. He says, and I apply to liberalism and say to see somebody struggle to understand common sense is fascinating to watch. It should teach you a lot about them. And it does. That's the psychology of leftism that I explore practically every day.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Hi, Kevin. This is Midget calling again. I saw you on Fox on the Revolution show. You did great. I just want to comment on the beta male show you did. It was a great show. I was thinking of a perfect example of a strong feminist woman competing in a man's world, and that's Danica Patrick. And you look at her, you think, well, she'd like to be the boss or whatever, but her boyfriend is none other than that great alpha male Green Bay Packer Aaron Rodgers. So it's kind of, makes sense that, even a strong woman doesn't want a beta male. Okay, thanks, bye.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Kevin Jackson here. Midget. She's not Guatemalan. Midget, thanks for the call. It's so true. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, as a strong alpha male, that's all I've ever known to be in my life is an alpha male. I can tell you, I see beta males. I see them with their girlfriends, and I just look at the girls like, you just needed you wanted a companion. What I'm saying by that, you wanted a girlfriend. I mean, you're one step away from lesbian with these beta males. And I can tell you right now, they're never happy. They pretend to be happy when they're out with their friends and everybody says, oh, Roger, he's so this or that. But they want that alpha male. No sense regurgitating that, rehashing it, because it tastes just as good the second time around. The alpha male rules the world, always has and always will. And he will have an alpha female by his side who will rule the world with him. They will they're co-equals in understanding their roles in the world. And I don't care. That's how the animal kingdom is, and man is little more than an animal with a bit of intellect. So there you have it. I know we've kicked this thing on Elizabeth Warren quite a bit, but I want you to hear Elizabeth Warren talk about her ancestry, and then I want to play a Fox clip, if you can get those ready for me, where they talk about Elizabeth Warren's ancestry. And this will be a little bit of an eclectic discussion around this, because I look at Warren as sort of everything that we talk about is a microcosm of leftism. Whether we were talking about Rachel Dolezal, who we haven't heard a lot from in a while, a white woman appropriating blackness. We're talking about Elizabeth Warren, a white woman appropriating, American Indian heritage, if you will. And then we talk about, just recently, Bruno Mars was in trouble because black people have said that he's appropriating black music. And I'm really curious as to how they came up with this. Bruno Mars makes his own music. He's certainly influenced by others, particularly James Brown. He's influenced by Michael Jackson, and I could go on. But so I was having a discussion with a friend of mine, and she says to me, my father used to say to me, when you put your kids in, I'll just use soccer or gymnastics, you're teaching your kids to be white. What you trying to be? Make these kids white. And so she went on to tell me, how it made her feel, and I would be like, well, why is that? And she starts questioning the lunacy of what her dad said. And so I go, this is what bugs me. And by the way, I think I may put a training video series out at some point, but this is what bugs me about that. I would have pushed back on my dad and said, well, Dad, you get up and you go to a regular job. You're in middle management. And I don't know when blacks got into middle management, but it's pretty rare. So I'm going to assume that when you get up and go to work, you're going to do something white. When you come home and you parent, given that you've hung around, a lot of black fathers don't. And that's what white fathers tend to do, certainly in more per capita than black fathers. So when you parent, you're appropriating white culture. Now, if that sounds ridiculous to you, it's because it is. Dad, you like to golf. Well, that's a white man's sport. So I can just presume that your love of golf is your appropriation of white people and you're displaying your love of white folks. Should I only put my kids in basketball camps? And should we only eat watermelon? I mean, that is so ridiculous. And it strikes me as odd because a lot of times I get the same questions. Now, I think it's interesting to talk about these questions from a psychological point of view. And, I always look at them. I look at it from a lot of different angles. From a sales point of view, you're selling me on a theory that there's a white thing. So when we determine when we're going to use something, do we determine its origin? For example, algebra. If you had to use algebra to calculate something in your life, are you appropriating Muslim culture? Because that math was discovered by algebra. So if that's the case, then who can use calculus? Or who can dare use physics? Or who can use any of the things? Can I appropriate Niels Bohr's law? Can I appropriate Einstein's laws? Can I appropriate some of the other great physicists and other scientists? That's so ridiculous. And where they apply it is even more ridiculous. So it's applied. They don't apply it to the things I just talked about. No, they apply it to social constructs. Braided hair. We did a thing. We showed a video of a girl who was mad at a white kid. This is at college. And she says, why do you have your hair in braids or dreads, one or the other? And the guy looks back at like, what? And she's like, why do you have your hair in the culture of black people? And he's like, first of all, it's not black culture. And he goes on to try to tell her, white people have been doing this for quite some time themselves. And just because you may see it more in culture of blacks, and meaning mostly the Rastafarians, doesn't mean it's yours. And she's genuinely mad at him for, going after her culture. And he's a beta male. He has to get bailed out. But I would have looked at her and said, look, let me explain something to you, girl. You don't get to tell me what I do with my body. The same way you feminists want to talk about, oh, it's my body and I can do what I want. You don't tell me how to wear my hair. You don't tell me what to do to my skin. You don't tell me what clothes I can wear. If I want to mimic your sorry culture, I'll mimic it. And there's nothing you can do about it. If I want to wear my pants down to my butt, below my butt, if I want to put a grill in my mouth, wear dreadlocks, and whatever else I choose to wear, a throwback jersey and some sneaks, then so be it. You got nothing to say about it. Oh, man. We need more alpha males, I'll tell you that. I'm not going to get all caught up in the discussion, but we do. We need more alpha males. We need more people willing to stand up to these clowns that are all out there. Anyway, I want to play another clip. Here's Elizabeth Warren talking about her mommy and daddy.
I know that you're looking ahead to November as opposed to 2020, but indulge me a moment here if you would. There are many people who are saying, should you choose to run in 2020, and one of these groups is the Berkshire Eagle, Massachusetts newspaper that endorsed you in 2012, that the issue of your ancestry will come up, and they're suggesting that you put it to rest, saying, quote, that Elizabeth Warren should screw up her courage and take the spit test, a DNA test, that a positive test would permanently resolve the issue while possibly shutting down President Trump. Would you be willing to take a DNA test to put this issue to rest?
Look, let's start again where you started. I'm not running for president, but let me tell you a little bit about my family. My mom and dad were born and raised out in Oklahoma, And my daddy was in his teens when he fell in love with my mother. She was a beautiful girl who played the piano. And he was head over heels in love with her and wanted to marry her. And his family was bitterly opposed to that because she was part Native American. And eventually my parents eloped. And they survived the Great Depression. They survived the Dust Bowl. They went through a lot of hard times. They raised 3 boys, my older brothers, all of whom went off to the military. They raised me. They knocked around, and it was tough. But they hung together. They hung together for 63 years. I know who I am because of what my mother and my father told me, what my grandmother and my grandfather told me, what all my aunts and uncles told me, and my brothers. It's a part of who I am, and no one's ever going to take that away.
Spoken like a true lying fraud. My mommy and daddy said it. And so for me, it's case closed, and I'm not gonna go against my mommy and my daddy. I love the way she talks about it. If what was his name, the guy, Todd Aiken. If Todd Aiken had said that, they'd be ridiculing this guy. They'd be roasting him, but not leftists. When Elizabeth Warren says it, oh, my mommy and my daddy. Who talks like that? Leftist babies. That's who.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Well, we can second guess ourselves as conservatives. Welcome, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. KJRadio.com. Glad you guys are here. When I say second guess, I'm saying if something doesn't go the way that we plan, like the PA-18 election or whatever it may be, we've lost a couple of elections. I think one in Wisconsin. I don't even remember where. Do I appear worried? You know, when people were worried about Donald Trump. Now, I'm going to tell you something. It's all God's plan. But and I jokingly tell people, why would I worry? I got attorneys. I pay for that. But the fact of the matter is there's no need for you to worry. Number one, you can't control it. You know, it is all God's plan. But the bigger issue is, when do you trust yourself? As I say, you know, when I train kids and train my own kids, trust the training. What has the message of conservatism, has it thawed? Has it waned? What is the situation? The only people who shouldn't be trusting themselves are the leftists. They have no idea what shoe's going to fall next on them. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to be reasonable. They don't want to be logical. It's all emotion, and their emotion is all caught up in lies, and it's caught up in lies that they know about. Do you think the average leftist, seriously, I mean, as warped as their minds are, do you think that they don't understand how bad Barack Obama really was? Seriously. Do you think that they do not understand how bad Hillary Clinton would have been? We don't even need to go after Hillary. She's good enough at doing it herself. She kicks her own butt. We don't need to tell them anything. They know all of this. Worse than that, you want to know what they really know? They know that they have many, many more things looming that are out there that are going to come to light. Let me ask you, are you concerned that there's going to be some revelation about Donald Trump that you're going to, oh my God, are you in fear of any of that? Because I'm not. There's nothing inside of me that goes, oh my gosh, I wonder if he's going to be okay. I wonder if, we're going to be in trouble over this. Is there something Donald Trump has done? Are there going to be more women out of the woodwork? Let me tell you, the left under Bill Clinton were so concerned. They were terribly concerned about what was going to come out. With Barack Obama, they were terribly concerned about what was going to leak out about him. Can you imagine the amount of money and orchestration it took to keep the lid on Bill Clinton shenanigans and Barack Obama's, quote, scandalous-free administration? If you had a tiny fraction of that money, you'd be one of the richest people in the world. Whoa. What did Kevin Jackson just say? Glad you guys are here. KJRadio.com, 844-551-8255. I talked earlier about the psychology of leftism. The psychology of leftism is very simple. Learn nothing. Only rely on what you've been taught. Only stay in the cocoon of ignorance, the conveyor belt of stupidity, and that's it. If somebody gives you something that's reasonable, that challenges your sensibilities, call them a racist, call them a name. Make sure they are labeled something so you can go home and sleep good at night. No willingness to learn, which is why they don't grow. Leftists are worse than children. I'm talking about the terrible twos. They throw tantrums, and you look at them and you go, you're an adult or a young adult. Why are you not understanding this? They're idiots. They've learned nothing. They're developmentally stunted. Probably I'd say around the age of 5. And I'm giving them credit. See, you have a willingness to learn. You're fascinated by people because you understand that when you engage with somebody, it's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to expand your mind. It's an opportunity to go, whoa, that's an interesting concept. I will tell you, one of the most amazing, there's 2 things that you'll find very amazing. One, when you talk to somebody and they get knowledge from you. That's such an empowering feeling when somebody says, wow, Kevin, I would have never thought of that. That is so cool. That's a great feeling. And it works on the other side. When somebody says something, you're like, now that's an interesting concept. Both of those are refreshing. It's rare that in the yin and yang of life that both sides can feel so good. It's an identical feeling, the yin and yang of learning or teaching. It's a yin and yang. I'll tell you, when I was taking piano lessons, I'm paying this guy, and I wanted to learn jazz, and which is kind of an interesting subject in and of itself, because nothing really, you can break a lot of rules in jazz. So I'm playing I tell my piano teacher, I'm like, okay, here's what I want to do, and so he starts playing it, and it's really cool. He's got these real smooth jazz chords, and I'm writing notes and trying to figure out. And I say, okay, let me play it, and I play it, but I play it wrong. And you know what he does? He goes, whoa, 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 do that again. Do that again. And I go, do what? He goes, do that again. So I play it, and it's wrong from the way he taught me. And he's looking at it, he goes, oh my gosh. He's like, man, I love the way that formed. And he stops and he's taking notes. And he pulls out his notebook and starts writing down what I did. Now here's the guy who's teaching me. And I do it, quote, wrong, and he goes, that's a cool sound. And I'm like, what? I taught you something? How much of a rebate do I get off of my lesson? That's the beauty of it. Both of us were empowered. I'm learning from him, and then he stops and goes, whoa, wait a minute, you innovated something that I just taught you. But see, leftism doesn't work that way. Leftists don't have a willingness to learn. They are not fascinated with the learning process. And I equate it, we see them, they do stupid things. We look at them, we go, do you understand that protecting illegals over your citizens in the real world is considered stupid? Governor Jerry Clown says, I don't understand what you're saying, Kevin Jackson. We're a sanctuary state and we protect illegals in this state. Yeah, but how do you handle citizens? I'm just curious. No partisanship here. Where does the life of the citizen fit in with your protection of illegal? Well, that's a whole other issue, Kevin. So what? This guy killed Kate Steinle. He needs to be protected. Protected from whom? The Steinle family? The federal? What? Who should he be protected from? From his own country? By the way, who probably misses him. I bet there are people there that wonder what's going on with him. And is there something they can do to help him? Or is he going to send money or what? I don't know. A lot to talk about.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful four-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. You've got this booming economy, job creation. I'm reading this, saw another powerful month in February. Companies adding 235,000 positions. This is according to ADP and Moody's Analytics. 313,000 total jobs. They said the total again defied Wall Street expectations. As economists surveyed by Thomson Reuters were expecting payrolls to grow by 195,000. Growth actually decelerated slightly as January posted an upwardly revised 244,000 from the initial 234,000. Let me tell you something, folks. You didn't hear that during the time of Obama. Revised upward. Revised downward happened often. February marked the fourth month in a row that private payrolls hit 200,000 or better. And they said, here's what Mark Zandi, a chief economist at Moody's, says. The job market is red hot and threatens to overheat. With government spending increases and tax cuts, growth is set to accelerate. Broad-based gains, they said, stretched across both services, goods producing sectors. Leisure and hospitality-led industry groups with 50,000 new jobs. Let me tell you what that means. By the way, we talked about this, but I just want to bring something home, bring a point home. Leisure and hospitality added 50,000 jobs. That means you are going out to hotels, you're going to resorts, you're doing things where the leisure and hospitality industry sees it and says, you know what? These people are coming back. That's one of the biggest indicators, that in manufacturing. Get this, professional and business services contributed 46,000 new jobs. Those are the people that are the ancillary, the support apparatus around other businesses. Transportation and utilities added 44,000. Construction rose 21,000. Manufacturing, 14,000 new positions. And all goods producing industries increased by 37,000, while service-related business, 198,000. These are people prepping for manufacturing to come back. Now, why am I talking about this stuff? I'm talking about this stuff because of a story that has to do with Home Depot. Home Depot is going to add 50,000 new people in order to take up for the jobs that the jobs that they anticipate they're going to need, and the loss of illegals. 50,000 new people are now in the process of being trained by Home Depot. They're going to spend $50 million is what they're doing to address this shortage, not 50,000 people. My mistake. 20,000 people. Yeah, a few more. Wait, what? I got the number wrong. I corrected it. Anyway, here's what this article reads. It's in USA Today. Home Depot announced Thursday that it will donate $50 million to train 20,000 people as construction workers over the next decade, helping efforts to ease a dire shortage that's curtailing home building and driving up house prices. Translation? So many illegals have now decided we got to go home because of what's going on with President Trump, that we now have to train people, Americans, for jobs that supposedly we don't want. Now, let me tell you, here's what I'd like to do. And this is what we're proposing to do. I want to get youngsters. I want to get young Latinos and young blacks and young whites, whoever, but certainly these kids that feel like they got to go to college. No, you don't. You can get trained as part of Home Depot's training program, and you can go get a real job where you do something with your hands that you can feel proud about, and you can make a really good living for your family. And if you do it right and you plan correctly, understanding that sometimes the job can be seasonal, and you pick up other crafts that you can, that you know how to work with, you'll be fine. When are we going to finally make this shift away from this notion that everything that we do has to be, based on college? I'm not knocking college. Look, my kids have gone to college, but I'll be honest with you. I don't think college it was a rite of passage for them just to say, okay, I got the college degree, but every one of them is going to end up doing something that's not related to their degrees within the next 5 years. I know that. One of them, it may be 10 years because he's younger, but they won't be doing anything related to their college degrees. They'll take those smarts and they'll apply them to something that they really want to do. That's what college is. The Home Builders Institute, the industry's education arm, will use the money from the Home Depot Foundation to train veterans and U.S. Army soldiers who will soon be returning to civilian life, high school students, and disadvantaged youth. I love this. This is what the private sector is supposed to do. It says, it is important that we support the trades, Home Depot CEO Craig Menear said in an interview. Not only do we sell product to professionals like plumbers and electricians, but the company also partners with service providers that install kitchen flooring, hot water heaters, and other equipment in consumers' homes. I love this project. I mean, I don't know about Home Depot's. This is where I look at it and I go, look, politics aside, this is what we're supposed to do. I would love to get with Craig Menear and round out that program and make that part of a bigger initiative around President Trump, and maybe with the Commerce Department. So I don't know who it would involve. Maybe it's with HUD. Get these kids that learn a trade, and then they go and do things in the minority communities or in the poor communities. I don't want to focus just on minorities, in the poor communities, and to help people get their houses up to code. Things like that. Those are the types of projects where we should be putting our efforts. And this is why I come back to teapartycommunity.org, the Facebook-like site that I own the majority of, and that many people are now taking an interest in because of what's going on with Facebook. This is what we should be doing as a group, as Americans. We should be looking at these projects, partnering with Home Depot to say the Tea Party community joins Home Depot, and we've allocated 2 or 3 areas where we're going to do something. We just start. We can expand it as we go along, but we need to start. I love this project. This article goes on to say that sales at the nation's largest home improvement retailer are dampened if contractors and partners can't find enough workers. Now, what's funny, they really are making a statement about the lack of labor from Mexico without saying it. But trust me when I tell you, this is what this is about. They say this. They build on the company's donation of $250 million they plan to donate between now and 2020 to provide housing to veterans. Soldiers and veterans will make up 15,000 of the 20 construction workers turned out by the program. And they think this is going to make a big enough dent in the program to where we can bring housing prices down. But more importantly than that, in my opinion, give these guys something to do. Get them moving in something, that's going to, and still help their spirit.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Legal immigration is down. Trump cut my taxes. I make $52 more a paycheck because of Donald Trump. That's right. And guess what? As a single guy, my standard deduction is actually doubled when I file taxes in 2018. And let's talk about these tariffs. We got 1,000 jobs coming to Lorain County, Ohio. So thank you to Ohio. Shout out for winning. That's right. I mean, jobs are coming back from Mexico to Michigan. Trump has accomplished so much in 1 year, it really is not a tough sell to bring people over. But the difference in what we're going to do in going towards November is we're going to be positive and energized and motivating and inspirational. We're not going to be the party of hate like the other side. We're going to focus on accomplishments and achievements. And we love our country. I am proud to be an American. And look at what Trump is doing. He's trying to accomplish world peace, literally something that neither Obama, Clinton, Bush was able to do to meet with North Korea. This is history in the making, what we're doing with Kim Jong-un. So I am so proud I voted for Donald Trump.
School walkout day. Welcome, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. It was yesterday, school walkout day. And I don't get, what are you hoping to accomplish here? By the way, I'm glad they walked out. I hope the teachers walk out. They don't get a day of pay. Congratulations to the taxpayers. Take a vacation day. Do something else. I don't care. I'm teaching these kids anything anyway. Teaching them that, we care about your safety, kids. We care about your futures. Man, just look at the state of education. Education is such a ruse. It would be considered a Ponzi scheme if it were put into the private sector. If private sector schools could do what the public sector schools did, there's no question it would be ruled illegal. People would be in prison for it, particularly if you looked at the outcomes. And don't even get me started when you lay it down by ethnicity. That's a whole other can of worms. Wow. National School Walkout Day is what they're calling it. National School Walkout Day. So all these kids got together. Why? Because, the guns in our schools are... And I'd love to see where all the schools walked out. I think they did. Then they do like 17 minutes of nothing, like, of silence or something. 1 minute for each child that was killed in Parkland. Yeah, I would love to know how many minutes of silence they want to have in a year's worth of killings in Chicago. Because that could take quite a bit of time, if you know what I'm saying. Or what about just inner city killings around the country? No, let's just not limit Chicago. Chicago, in comparison, is not really that dangerous. There are much more dangerous places in Chicago. Baltimore's more dangerous. St. Louis is probably the most dangerous city in the country per capita. It absolutely is. Lots of killings. Yeah. So, where's that minute of silence? Yeah, they should give every kid a 40. And then, they do the minute of silence and they all pour a little bit of the drink out, like for their buddy, for their homie. These kids don't know the kids that died in these schools, nor do they care. They've been told to do something. They can get out of school. If you do this, you can get out of school. You get out of school. I'd probably be doing it. Let's be honest. If they said, look, you can get out of school, free day for you, and unless you had perfect attendance riding on it or something, I'd be like, shoot, I'm staying. I'm gonna ride out the national day of whatever and go shoot me some hoops. Students across the country expected to walk out of their classrooms, and they did. National school walkout. 10 a.m. yesterday. 17 minutes for each, one for each. If you're a student that, thinks of taking part of this, you probably have a lot of questions. Can the school retaliate? Will it hurt your chances of college? Can you stay home for the day? So CNN posted this article that gave everybody answers. Can my school punish me for taking part? If you're just participating, your school can, since students are required to be in school, but many won't as long as the students aren't being disruptive. Remember, students have a First Amendment right to protest, just like anybody else. The landmark Tinker versus Des Moines case pretty much settled that legal question. In it, the Supreme Court ruled students don't, quote, shed their constitutional rights of freedom of speech or expression at the schoolhouse gate. So they said some students could hit students who walk out with an unexcused absence. That could be a bigger problem if a student already has a lot of those. Extra one could be, they end up being considered truant. Can I be arrested? Generally, students don't have to worry about being arrested unless, of course, they break laws, blocking a street and so on and so forth. Yeah, don't be doing like Black Lives Matter, because then you might go to jail, little white kids. Can a teacher force me to write a letter or essay as a condition for participating? Some districts are telling students they have to write a letter or essay on the topic of gun reform, for example, or civil disobedience. He says in order to participate, and they say that's okay. School can assign work to students. And students don't have a constitutional right to not do work. Now that's interesting, isn't it? It seems to be a sensible way for a school to teach students lessons on civics and citizenship. Here was the next question. Can a teacher schedule a test during the walkout? Yes. If the test was already scheduled and is part of the curriculum, that's perfectly fine. But if the test's sole purpose is to keep students from walking out, that's problematic. Schools generally have the discretion to schedule tests when they want. Pop quiz. Pop quiz on walkout day. That's what I say. They said they called these practices a vindictive exercise that wastes an opportunity for teachers to teach students how to be an adult in this world. Yeah, because the schools do such an amazing job teaching kids how to be adults. Here was the last and final question that they asked of it. Will participating hurt my chance of getting into college? From Yale to Tulane to UCLA, these colleges have already come out and told prospective students that unexcused absences or other consequences resulting from the walkout won't affect their admission into schools. But there's no guarantee other schools won't take a different tack. If a college does hold participation in the walkout against an applicant, there's not much a student can do except maybe apply to another school. Can my parents sign me out of class for the walkout? It's okay for parents to take their kids out of school for a time period of the walkout for the entire day if they wish. Of course, motivations may be different. Some parents may want to sign their children in, is what they're saying. All right. They want them to participate. Here's another question. Do I stay on campus when I walk out? Students don't lose their First Amendments when they step off campus, and schools can't force students to stay on campus. By the way, I talked about this the other day. Have you looked at campuses these days? They are fortresses. So I don't know, but anyway, they apparently did not have to stay on campus. When I was watching it, I saw kids walking off campus. If I go to a private school, what are my rights? None under the First Amendment while in school. So says Hamio, private schools have a little more leeway in telling students yes or no about taking part in the walkout. Those students must adhere to the school's policies, which might outright forbid them from taking part in the walkout. See, this is what's interesting between the public and private sector. That's a perfect example. Here's number 9. I'm not a U.S. citizen. Do I still have the First Amendment right to protest? Both Wisner and Hamio, referring specifically to students in Wisconsin where she practices law, says as far as the walkout is concerned, non-citizen students are viewed as having the same rights as the citizen students they are protesting with, at least while the walkout or the protest stays on campus. They have the same rights, but where they should be cautious is in participating in off-campus stuff. Not only would they have to deal with criminal law if something happened during the protest off campus, but they might have to deal with immigration law as well. So what they're saying is non-citizens have First Amendment rights according to our Constitution. No, not true. What non-citizens have is they have a right to speak up for themselves and say, I'm here illegally, but that doesn't preclude my right to protest whatever I choose to protest or whatever, but I also have to suffer the consequences of that. Oh man, this is crazy stuff. What else we got? What happens if I don't walk out? Well, it says here, students who don't wish to join either because they don't agree with the cause or just don't want their school day interrupted or whatever shouldn't be punished or retaliated against. It's not a legal question, but they have the right to remain in a safe school environment. Then they better walk out. Next question, can a teacher join in the walkout? Now, this is a little tricky. Most schools have policies that allow teachers to take part in political causes, but on their own time, not when they're working for the school district. Schools have a right to require teachers to teach. Really, I'm shocked. During teaching hours, during school hours, Wisner said, and teachers have a very limited First Amendment right to participate in a walkout during school hours for a political cause. But schools may actually want teachers out with their students. So we've paid for these teachers to teach, but no, the school could very well say, we don't care if you teach. Go participate in a walkout that's against guns, an anti-gun thing, because that's our stance on it. We got the teachers union behind you that'll back you up. Oh, man. Crazy stuff going on in the world, folks. I think the walkout is good for the kids for this reason. They don't have to put up with another day of indoctrination because that's all they're getting anyway. We'll be back.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
The Berkshire Eagle. This is a liberal newspaper, and it is urging the Massachusetts Democrat Liz Warren to take the spit test.
Welcome back, everybody. Take the spit test. Elizabeth Warren, it's not too much to ask, is it? And I don't play that. I don't care about Elizabeth Warren's ethnicity and all that in as much as, you know, what we've been talking about, other than the fact that she lied about it. That's all I care about. She lied. That's what Democrats do. And they become mockeries of themselves. In fact, let's play this other clip. This is CBS talking about the millennials on colleges.
The Washington Post looks at a survey out this morning that says college students support free speech unless it offends them. A poll of 3,000 U.S. students revealed they generally endorse campuses that encourage the discussion of a variety of ideas, but they're willing to limit free speech if the ideas infringe on their personal values. We all need to learn more about what free speech is.
That's right, yeah. They like all food unless it tastes bad.
Right.
The dramatic...
Keep in mind, folks, that's CBS mocking its own. That's pretty funny. CBS saying, you know what? They're for free speech unless you disagree with them. They're for free speech, except it has to be this kind of speech. And they're mocking them. By the way, for the kids that are out there listening to this program, if you believe that nonsense, you're going to get a rude awakening. Because let me tell you something. If you've come up in an environment where everybody agrees, and then you go to the hood, for example, and people don't agree with you, and I would just love to plop these kids out of academia and put them into a circumstance where they're like, what just happened to me? And watch them. They are so unprepared for the world. It's ridiculous. Prepare your kids for the world. It's going to be the easiest world out there. When I grew up, it was ingrained in me, Kevin, the way you're going to distinguish yourself in the world as a young black man is to, study hard. Make sure that people find you a person of substance, a person of, character, good moral fiber, and, not frivolous or whimsical, and fun to be around. Don't take life too seriously. Don't look for excuses, and be accountable, and on and on. These are all good qualities I passed on certainly to my sons. And one of the things that I'll never forget, but my great grandfather made us say yes sir, yes ma'am, no sir, no ma'am. And my white friends would be like, they talk to their parents, and their parents would say something like, they would be like, what? And yeah. And I mean, I'm talking about with emphasis. And this friend of mine, his name is Eddie. Eddie used to talk to his dad like they were brothers. And his dad talked back to him like it was his big brother. Eddie, I told you to get that out of the truck. Doggone it, Dad. But he would curse. And his dad would say, just do what I told you. It was like the two big brothers. And I remember my brother and I, when Eddie said, GD to something his dad said, and we looked at each other like we would be beaten. We would be killed if we tried that crap with our grandmother who raised us. And but that's the way it was. But here's what I'll tell you. I don't know what Eddie's doing. He's a fun guy, and I'm not, no disrespect intended to him, because a lot from my friends listen to my show. But here's the deal. I know this. My saying yes sir and yes ma'am, no sir and no ma'am got me further in life than if I hadn't said it. I know that. I didn't say it, by the way, to impress anybody. I said it because my great grandfather told me, this is the man you're going to become, whether you like it or not. And I remember when he put that rule down, when my brother and I stayed the summer with him, and he said, we would say, yeah, and what? And he goes, hey, that doesn't work here. And he told us what we had to say. And we made a mistake one time. And I'm not lying. My great grandfather said, now I done told you boys, it's yes sir, yes ma'am, no sir, no ma'am. And the next time we did it, he came around that corner with his belt, grabbed us, and begins to whooping that butt. And I just remember going, what? And my great grandfather's whipping my butt, and he's telling me every lick, I told you to say yes sir. No. And then he ran and got my brother and did the same thing. And we didn't forget it anymore. And when we got home, people think I'm lying when I tell these stories, but don't look at me like I'm crazy. When we got home, my great grandfather called my grandmother. I think we were home 2 days, and they were talking, and I heard my grandmother going, yeah, they still doing it, Daddy. Oh yeah. And he was asking my grandmother, are those boys still saying yes sir, yes ma'am, no sir, no ma'am? Because I told them they better. And he never said it again. The rule was never enforced again by my grandmother or grandfather. That was the end of it. And I've said it from that butt whooping on forward to every grown up I've ever met. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Nice to meet you. Whatever. And people look at it. Oh, you one of them, yes, yes, ma'am, yes, then. No, I'm not. You call me. You can make that whatever you want to make it. Let me tell you what I am. I'm a product of a great man. My great grandfather, who I have the most respect for as a man in the world. The most. You can put Donald Trump, you can put Gandhi, you can put MLK, you can put anybody on that you want in that category. My great grandfather is the person I respect the most. I've gotten advice from many people. I've read the work of the great scholars. What I'm telling you is my great grandfather is the person I respect the most. That's just it. It's really that simple. A lot of great people out there. A lot of people that I want to have dinner with or hang out with. And I was literally within 6 feet of Denzel Washington. He came to St. Louis to see his son play football. And I just gave him a quick hello, and I walked on past. And he's a guy I have a lot of respect for. Would have loved to have gone over to Denzel and said, hey, man, I love your work, and, or whatever. But he's just a guy to me. My great-grandfather, I wanted to sit down and talk to him. That's how important he was to me. And I hope that that's the way you feel about many of your elders. Anyway, my whole point of this thing is that the left are beginning to mock what's going on. Elizabeth Warren's being mocked. Not just Fox News played a clip, of Pocahontas, but the left are mocking Elizabeth Warren. And what you notice when she dropped out of the race is they're essentially saying, you got no, you're done. Think about it. 2 years ago, when they were fast tracking Elizabeth Warren, telling her, giving her the best jobs in the Senate, gearing her up to run for president, even at one point considering dropping her in for Hillary. And now she's gone from 2 years of being on the fast track to being the next president of the United States, if Hillary didn't make it, to dropping out. And the same will happen with Kamala Harris and anybody else. The Democrats are grasping at straws right now. Then CBS, the lamestream media, they're mocking college kids. Oh, yeah, we want free speech as long as it's our speech. And they can't even control their laughter. Yeah, we love all food except the foods we don't love. They're mocking them. And there's many other things I could tell you where they're being mocked. I played a thing on a millennial who says, I'm for Trump. If you don't think that there are more millennials out there for Trump, and here's what I also want to do. I want to play a clip of another one of these things where they don't want you to know, but nobody wants to take credit for Farrakhan.
Republican Jewish coalition asking 7 long-serving Democrats to resign this week, claiming that they have ties to Louis Farrakhan, who had a message of hate again 2 weeks ago. Here's a portion of this issued statement saying this. There can be no question about how abhorrent it is for these Democrats to be connected to Louis Farrakhan. Farrakhan is first and foremost a preacher of hate.
That organization doesn't have any credibility with me. I know they have a political agenda.
Yeah.
My record has shown that I've spoken out against anti-Semitism, homophobia, Islamophobia, xenophobia, all of the phobias.
They said that you were at a meeting with Louis Farrakhan and he's anti-Jew, anti-gay, anti-white, and so they want to.
I have met with him, as have other members of the Black Caucus, but I've met with him as other members of the Black Caucus have met with him, talking about anti-crime efforts, discrimination against women, and those kinds of things. But I condemn any form of discrimination, and I've been consistent.
Welcome back, everybody. That was Andre Carson, member of the Congressional Black Caucus, being held to task for meeting with Farrakhan, and that's his excuse. Well, I've met with him, yeah. Can you imagine if Donald Trump met with a member of the Klan, or actually met with David Duke? He's never met the guy, but if he met with him, sat down and said, look, we talked about everything except all that anti-Semitism and that hatred of blacks and that hatred of Jews or hatred of whatever. Yeah, but we didn't discuss any of that. Yeah, but I sat down, I met with him. Yeah. See, that's the left. They are walking, talking contradictions. They want you to pretend that you don't see what they do.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. The Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. Stay positive and happy. Work hard. Don't give up. Be open to criticism and keep learning. Then do this. Surround yourself with people just like that. Happy people. Genuine people. People who are willing to admit their faults. People who are willing to engage in dialogue. People who understand that you are flawed, they are flawed, and you will accept one another, flaws and all. Welcome, folks. Welcome, it's the Kevin Jackson Show, KJRadio.com, 844-551-8255. Here's something I will let you guys know. I've been under the weather for the better part of a week, had a bit of a bug. And it's impacted me, my sinuses, my throat, my chest, all kinds of stuff. But you know what? We march on. I think the lessons are too important. Don't misunderstand me. I've got to, because of travel and things like that. And I think travel is what does it, honestly. I was in a plane coming back. Where was I? Was it L.A. or Oregon or wherever? And I mean, people are just hacking all around. And I'm thinking to myself, you've avoided this, Kev, for the better part of, a year. I hadn't been seriously sick in a while. And but I'm listening to these guys hacking. This one man in particular, he was just hacking. And I thought to myself, I don't know if I can survive this one. I let that negativity get in. That's what did it. If I hadn't dropped my guard right there, I would have been fine. No, but I could hear this guy hacking, and I'm thinking, this is recirculated air. No matter what they do, man, you're going to get something. And sure enough, I get this stinking bug. So I'm coughing. I know, I'm covering it up here pretty good over the past few days, but I'm telling you, I'm hacking, coughing. You know that cough where you almost throw up? You cough so hard? I hate that cough. But hey, what did I say? Stay positive and happy. Stay positive and happy. And I've been talking about this as a function of your faith. Because let me tell you something. There's a lot of reasons not to be happy. Don't you wish you had more free time? I don't know about you. I've sat around at times and went, man, if I didn't have to clean up my office, get my expenses done, do paperwork, have all these meetings, etc., I would just have free time to do whatever I wanted to do. But what would that be? Sometimes I actually enjoy work. I enjoy getting on the radio and talking to you guys. I know that sounds weird, but I do. I enjoy commiserating. I know, look, it's a one-sided conversation, but you're here. So you're obviously listening. You find something of value coming from this conversation because you're not frivolous people. You're very intelligent folks. There's a reason why you're here. And I will tell you, I take it as a personal responsibility to say, look, Kevin, it's fun to be entertaining to an audience. I mean, I've done stand-up where it's been practically meaningless that when you leave at the end of the day, it's just me cracking you up about pull my finger or remember when you used to do this as a kid, that kind of thing. And were you the kid that everybody used to go, hey, he's the one that eats his boogers? I can make you laugh, okay? And you get nothing out of it. But with this, yeah, there's some humor, but you got to get something out of this, man. This is not come pay your 25 whatever bucks and get a couple drinks and go home and sleep it off. This is your life. This is what's unfortunately the humor that your life has become, the laughing matter that your life has become. And it's the laughing matter because you allowed it to be that. And so we're looking at how do we fix it? Sometimes we laugh to keep from crying, but you've decided to spend your discerning time with me, and I take it seriously and go, how do I fill that time? Do I fill it with news? There's lots of stories. If I didn't bring in any news stories and I just looked back in the past and said, here's a story to talk about immigration or tax reform or whatever, or the stupidity of leftism as it pertains to subject 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, whatever. I don't even have to look at new news. That's why I sort of changed the format and went, does the news really matter? I mean, do you really want to know? Yeah, we do need to know what's the outcome of elections. We do need to know, that the stage of the border wall or statistics about the economy and things like this as they occur. There's no question about that. There's a part of news that you got to know in the moment that it's done or sometime around the moment. But then there's a lot of stuff where there's just flat out lessons. And I'll tell you something, for those of you who are going, because this is what I used to think when I would do radio. This is what I would think. I said, okay, you do a 3-hour show, 5 days a week. It's 15 hours of radio, and you're covering these various segments, and all of the segments are really pointing to the same stuff. If I went back and just put taxes into my computer, it'll pull up every show that I've ever labeled taxes or has notes about taxes in it, and I'll promise you, it's going to be 30% of the shows, if not more. If I pull up immigration, it's going to be a bunch of them. If I pull up Muslim terrorism or terrorism, it'll come up. If I pull up foreign policy, if I pull up North Korea, Russia, China, whatever, it's going to come up. Economy, something's going to come up. I can find those stories, and I'll tell you something. Here's what's really interesting. I don't know whether this is a pat on the back or whatever, but I could do a show from 3 years ago about tax policy or my sentiments on Halloween or Mother's Day or Black History Month or whatever, and it would be just as entertaining to you today as it was then. But let me go back to what my feelings were. When I would think about the daunting body of work that you do in 1 week, I would say to myself, Kevin, how are you going to keep a show interesting day in and day out, year after year? And with rare exception, over the past eight plus years that I've been doing this show in earnest, I will tell you, with rare exception, I've never been bored. A topic may bore me and it may fade out a little bit at the end, but if I covered it on the show, I felt like it had some sort of meaning. Sometimes we find that meaning, sometimes we don't. I think we've done a pretty good job. But to do it day in and day out, and by the way, for $0, I don't even want to add up 8 years of doing a 3-hour radio show and making nothing and asking myself, Kevin, what is your purpose there? Because I would be mad at myself. The only reason why I can tell you is God is my witness. The reason why I sit here and you hear my voice right now is because God said to me, you'll do this. That's it. I don't want to look back on it. And I want you to contemplate how much time I've spent doing a 3-hour radio show with roughly 4 hours of prep, day in and day out for 8 years, 5 days a week, well, almost 5 days a week. What's the time value of my money on that? When we come back, I want to explain why I'm talking about all this and why we're important to each other.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful 4-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
One of my producers asked me, Kevin, why do you explain radio to the audience? And I go, I don't know. It's a topic of conversation. It's part of life. It's a conversation I have with myself. Conversation I've had with family, friends. Why do it? How much time does it take? How much prep? How much do you make? What are your plans? I could go on and on and on with just a litany of questions and the things that I soul search about. Why do I share this? Because guess what? It's who I am. I talked earlier about faith. This show today was really about faith. And one thing about faith is always be yourself and express yourself and have faith in yourself. And the other side of that is don't try to be something somebody else is. Kevin, my producer, says, I don't think I've ever heard any other radio host talk about the production of radio. I don't believe that's the case. It's not like he's listening to everybody's radio show. No offense to you, man. But, I listen to everybody's radio show. I bet there are a lot of people that express their frustrations with radio or how much they think it's great. Lots of aspects, everything in between, right? But I've decided to share because I want you to understand that we're important to one another, and I'm trying to help us figure out why. I don't know. I'm not telling you I have the answer, just so we're clear on it. Everybody's listening to the radio. My producer is looking at me like, you're going to give us the answer? No, I don't have an answer. I just know we all have better things to do, and we've decided to do this. I believe it's because we've seen how the world has gotten off tilt. The axis is tilted left, and we're trying to tilt it back. And I think we have to some degree. And what I'm saying to you is it's like the devil. He's going to always look for ways to penetrate your armor. You sharpened all your weapons, and you polished up the brass and everything, and you are a knight ready to go to battle. And on November 8th, 2016, you couldn't have looked any better, man. You looked marvelous. That was the prettiest you could possibly be. And now, you're going to give up the modeling career, and you're on the you're just about to retire because you're going, I'm not going to keep my looks forever. And now the battle begins. The battle with time, the battle with age, the battle with self-doubt, lots of stuff. And what I'm telling you is you don't have to worry about that stuff. Number one, you don't have to worry about it because there's a higher power that drives all of it. I know it may sound bizarre. Stephen Hawking, who just died the other day, he said something like, for those of you who believe in predestiny, he goes, why is it you still look both ways when you cross the street? Now, this is a guy who's an atheist. He says that you can't prove God with science, ergo, it doesn't exist. I find it interesting that anybody who studies astrophysics can say that God doesn't exist. When you think about the expansion of the universe and everything that we know about the universe, there's no possibility of believing that God doesn't exist. But Stephen Hawking says, well, if you're one of these people that believes that it's all predetermined, why are you looking when you cross the street? And I say to one of the most brilliant minds supposedly that ever existed, Stephen, if I don't look before I cross the street, don't you think that's part of my destiny? In other words, he's saying if you just blindly walk in front of traffic in New York City, you're going to get killed. Yeah, that's why I don't do it. And God knows I'm not going to do it because he put that in my head. Don't walk across the street without looking in the traffic, or you're going to get killed. Stephen Hawking answers his own question but doesn't even know that he's answered it. It's predetermined, right? I should just go play on the freeway. Yeah, I should cut myself with rusty nails or knives, or step on them and not go to the doctor, or not treat infections, or not take precautions for this or that, not train, not do whatever. That's just ridiculous. Everything that you do is part of that destiny. Knucklehead Hawkins. It's not an intellectual comment. And what's funny, people believe that's one of the things that they quote on this guy when he dies. Stephen Hawking died and he made this comment, like it's so profound. Hawking's made the famous quote, do you believe in, predestined outcomes in this higher power of yours? Then why do you still look both ways when you cross the street? And people are like, oh, he's so deep. He's not deep at all. Look, Hawking has got a brilliant mind when it comes to math. I'm a mathematician, and I'll promise you, I can't hold a single. There's nothing about my math career that's going to impose on his at all. But on comments like that, I can show you how stupid he is. And I think I just did. There's genius in all of us. And Hawkins wants to believe that because of his work in astrophysics, that he can be a genius in life in explaining the universe and the cosmos and God to you. What's interesting to me is he looks at God every day and he overlooks him. He misses him. I'll give him a pass because he's got some quirks himself. Stephen Hawking does. Oy. Be faithful in the small things because in them your strength lies. Mother Teresa said that. We're easy to want to look at, and I'm just going to use Hawkins as an example. We look at this person and we say, that's a great man. Therefore, ergo, everything that he says must be great. And I'll hang on to it. And, oh, I so wish I could be this or that or be, have his intellect or whatever. I wish for nothing of Stephen Hawkins. And I'm saying even if he didn't have, I think it's what it is, they got cerebral palsy. Even if he didn't have it. I watched the show. What was it called? There's something of everything. The Theory of Everything. Good-looking kid. Obviously an amazing intellect, mathematically, from a math and science perspective. A gift from God. That's the only thing that can be said. It is a gift from God to have that level of intellect in terms of math and science. Most people have to work at that. He's just naturally gifted with it. And anyway, he developed cerebral palsy or whatever disease that he had. I think it was it wasn't cerebral palsy. It was Lou Gehrig's disease? Anyway, he lived longer than anybody with whatever disease he had. And got lots of accolades that quite frankly were undeserved. I've done some study on him, and he's not nearly the brilliant physicist that everybody made him out to be. I mean, he is brilliant, but I'm saying there were people that are held in more high esteem and have actually debunked many of the theories that he's had. But I'm not going to take that away from him. Brilliant guy, watched the film. He could do homework on a napkin and turn it in a second. I mean, he was brilliant. And good for him. And sad to tell you, he's not in the kingdom of heaven. Maybe he doesn't care. I'm sure his family doesn't care. It's his life to lead. But he was an atheist, and he imparted that on other people and made them feel little, I believe, in some ways, because, he's this brilliant guy who's saying your belief system is flawed, and, if you can't prove it with science, then it's flawed. In other words, if you walk by faith and not by sight, well, you're a flawed person. Your intellect is off. You've got a bad calculus. You need to recalibrate. And I say to him, he needs to recalibrate. And I use this quote because I think that it's applicable in explaining that he's not brilliant in everything. In fact, in some things, he's quite stupid. And though I wish nothing bad for Stephen Hawking, as I said earlier, he's not with God.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
I talk about the fakes and the frauds on the left all the time. Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. It's the Kevin Jackson Show. I don't care if it makes them mad. And it probably I could have 10 times, 1,000 times the radio career I'd have if I were to soften the message a bit. Speak a little bit more eloquently about the left. Don't call them the scumbags that they are. But you know what? If that's the case, so be it. I'm doing, you guys know I told you this is the year for radio for us. Either we go big or we go home. It's that simple. There are plenty of people who can do this. You're going to be hearing a lot of folks that we're going to be touting to help do this show, introducing you to people that I think need a voice, and we'll see what comes of it. But I'm giving it a certain amount of time because, there's only so much truth you can deliver before you got to go finally do something that can pay the bills and what have you. I say that not to scare anybody. I'll talk to my program directors and stuff before we make any drastic moves. But by the end of the year, I've got almost 9 months, just over 9 months to get it done. We're going to have figured out what we want to do in radio to make it worth our while. So here's what I would say to you. If you know of somebody that says, hey, we love the Kevin Jackson Show, we love what Kevin Jackson does, and you want to be a benefactor to the show, let us know. If you want to be a sponsor of the show and you've got a product that, we think it fits with what we want to do, let's do that. We've been looking to go that route. It's one of the reasons why we haven't made the show profitable is we haven't stopped to do that. We've just been delivering a product. So you can help in that way. And then the final thing is spread these clips. Go to kjradio.com and get it out there. Because, we just aren't staffed to do it. And even if we were, I'll be honest with you, we're not good at it. I hate to put it that way. We're just not good at it. But what we are good at is weeding through the mess and having people understand that, there's no guarantees in this life. And the only way you're going to do something is the only way you're going to be successful at it is you're going to get up and make it happen. You're going to do something to let people know, hey, look, I'm not going to sit around and take what you have to give to me. There was a guy, his name is Tagore. He says, faith is a bird that feels the light when the dawn is still dark. And I know that, we got a ray of sunshine on November the 8th of 2016. By the way, Happy New Year for 2018. And you're about to get another ray of light. A lot of people don't know it yet. They don't feel it. They're still wondering. I think it's Carl that has been writing to me. He listens to the program. And he says, Kevin, when are we going to get justice with Hillary Clinton? Oh, it's out there. It's looming. It will come. But, it's dark right now. As the saying goes, it's always darkest before the dawn. St. Augustine said, pray as though everything depended on God. Work as though everything depended on you. Man, how profound is that? See, there are things we can't control. And you just have to say, I put that in God's hands. But let me tell you something. If you're a conservative and you're being outworked by your leftist counterpart, shame on you. These are people that are writing letters. These are people that are boycotting. I'm talking about on the left. These are people who are forwarding the messages of other people's stuff. When they find their champions, they make sure those people get out there. Well, you know what? Maybe we should take a few notes from that. They shouldn't win an election. They cheat, they do all the other things, but you know what? They don't have that fire in their bellies that we have. They can't possibly have that. And I'm going to give you a little dirty secret. Many of them now support you. They may not say it publicly. Seek them out. Find them. Start a conversation. I talked to you guys about I was in cars. Fox had to pick, they gave me, not gave me, but they picked me up. I had 5 limo rides. I had to go, to California. So they picked me up at my house. I knew that guy. I already know he's a white dude, conservative. We've had multiple conversations. Guy picks me up from the airport to take me to my hotel. Hispanic dude. His name was Francisco. We have a great conversation. He's going to barber school, driving temporarily. Anyway, he and I talk. The next guy that picks me up is a brother. I forget his name. Black dude. Again, conversation with all of them, except the first white guy. I already know what he's about, but we talk about politics all the time. Francisco, I'm telling him, man, what's up with your city? What's up with LA? What's up with California? I'm educating him. Black dude picks me up, take me to the studio. Probably one of my favorite, one of my favorite conversations, where I find out he's a black conservative living in California. So we had an amazing conversation. He couldn't wait for me to finish up there so we could continue the conversation, which we did. Then guy that picked me up to take me to the airport was a Hispanic dude. I blew his mind. His name was, anyway, he was a lefty. And we were talking about racism. And I was telling him, man, you got nothing but fake news. Everything you hear is a lie. And I tell him about racism. And I schooled him on Hillary Clinton and Margaret Sanger and the Negro Project and Planned Parenthood. And I'm not kidding you. He looked in the mirror and went, wow. And I said, yeah. And so I depressed him because he's a big Democrat. So I said, do your research. You'll never vote for Democrats again. I get off there. Then I get ready to come home. And there's a brother that picked me up when I landed back home. He's taking me to the airport. I meet another black conservative. I'm just telling you, folks, don't get discouraged. Follow the advice of St. Augustine. Pray as though everything depends on God, that everything depended on God, and work as if everything depended upon you. I get so frustrated. I really do. I get super frustrated when people, like I'll get an email and it'll say, hey, Kevin, we've got this issue that's going on over here. And, I need you to get involved. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why don't you get involved? And it'll be something that's not anywhere near my sweet spot. It'll be like, the left wants to stop a track that's being built or whatever. And I'm going, okay, great. And I don't want to dismiss it because it's important to the person writing me the note. But I'm like, guys, look, if we could take on everything, I wouldn't. But, I get that you want us to, but we can't take on everything. Holy cow. What I wanted to go into is this fake news thing on the left. And right now, there's an Idaho state lawmaker who told her constituents to submit entries for what she called the Fake News Awards. And if you guys recall, Donald Trump brought this up when he did the Fake News Awards. And quite frankly, he could have done I would have liked to have seen a full-blown production of the Fake News Awards. So this Idaho lady did this. A Kentucky governor tweeted fake news to dismiss questions supposedly about his purchase of a home from a supporter. An aide to Texas land commissioner uses the phrase to downplay the significance of his boss receiving donations from employees of a company that landed a multi-million-dollar contract. So what they're saying in this article is that there are people who are saying fake news, and of course anything that comes out, somebody's going to take advantage of it. The people writing this article in AP make it sound like, all these so-called, conservatives or Republicans, I'm presuming that's who they are because it's an AP article, are using the fake news moniker in order to profit, in order to gain something for themselves. They would go on to say this: President Donald Trump's campaign to discredit the news media has spread to officials at all levels of government who are echoing the use of his term fake news as a weapon against unflattering stories. Now, Ann Coulter was arguing with some leftists and it made the comment that many people talked about Donald Trump, and I'll just use this one as an example, grabbing women by the beep beep, and they said that he had done it, that he's a misogynist and he'd done it, when all he had done was use that as an example. And Ann Coulter's pointing out people acted as if he'd done it, and he hadn't. He was just trying to give the guy some sort of an idea of what women were willing to do if you had achieved rock star status, which, by the way, Donald Trump wasn't wrong in what he said. The whole time the lady is, interviewing Ann Coulter, she's like, well, give us an example of why this hurts the democracy. Give us an example. And she says, give you an example. And Ann Coulter gave like 4 or 5 bona fide fake news stories by the mainstream media. And this girl who was another guest on the show was saying, no, we're the press and you are just trying to diminish journalism. And Ann Coulter's going, how can I do that when you do such a great job yourselves? They said it's becoming ubiquitous as a signal to a politician's supporters to ignore legitimate reporting and hard questions as a smear of the beleaguered and dwindling local press corps, and as a way for conservatives to push back against what they call biased stories. You know what I love about this? I love that these people are finally, think about the pressure that's been put on the media to where fake news is now, as he says, it's ubiquitous. We know where to put it. Everybody uses the term. It's caught on. It's like Crooked Hillary. It's caught on. And it's caught on not because Donald Trump is such a great marketer. It's caught on because it's true. He said when Trump announced he was going to make the Fake News Awards, a group of conservative legislators said, we all need to do that. This is what Patricia, Idaho Rep. Priscilla Giddings said, and she urged supporters to send her examples of bias, misleading, and fake news. I don't know how many retractions have been issued by the mainstream media in the last year, but I'll tell you this, I bet it's more than they've done in the last 10 years.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
All right, everybody, welcome back. I want to try to cover quite a few stories that are not going to be fresh if we keep them around too long, but one of them is around these little tiny homes. Have you seen this show? Tiny homes. Now, keep in mind, these are not the $200,000 tiny homes where they've got refrigerators and ice machines and whatever else and, sleeping quarters, but they're like a little shed. And a guy has been putting these up out in California. His name is Elvis Summers. He builds and donates these shelters, and he spreads them out amongst the homeless in certain areas around, I believe it's L.A. Now, Summers is an L.A. resident, and he was homeless at one point. So he understands homelessness, and he says these little homes are better than being in a one of these cardboard boxes or sleeping on the side. When I was out in California, I was out in L.A., in fact, and there were people right off of Sunset Strip just sleeping on the porch of a church. So it's a big problem. And we talked the other day about how much debris and stuff they cleaned up at this one site. It's a trail. And we had posted a video a while back. It is foul. You just got to see this. Just how nasty it was. And how much stuff that had to be removed by hazmat crews. And I mean, I don't know how much money it cost to take care of all that, but it had to be a small fortune. Anyway, here's this article. It says, escalating their battle to stamp out an unprecedented spread of street encampments, city officials have begun seizing tiny homes from homeless people in South Los Angeles, South LA. So these homeless little buildings, if you will, they were solar powered, American flags on them, and the city swept them, and they ended up taking a bunch of them away. But he says he put these encampments on the overpasses, or I should say the houses within encampments that are near these overpasses along 110 for homeless people to use instead of tents. 3 of the structures got impounded this month and are still in the city lot, according to the sanitation department. And they're going to be discarded. And what Summers says is he's like, look, these people have been beaten down so hard, you give them an opportunity to be normal and it lifts them up. And to that, I say it's true. When I worked on the food line at the Salvation Army men's shelter, I would see people now that everybody came in to eat, men and women. And I'd see them and I'd be like, hey, Ethel, how you doing? Because they wore name tags. And these are people that wouldn't make eye contact, but they'd hear their name and look up like, who just called me? And I was like, how you doing, girl? And it would be ladies that were as old as my grandmother. I go, how you doing? And I go, hey, I'm so glad you're here and things like that. I'm going to give you a little bit extra, whatever. And I tease with them and joke with them and based on what they had in their hands and stuff. And they do feel really good, even in just that moment. So I'll give him credit for that. But as with all things, it's fraught with, what's the word? The duality of leftism. You want to do a favor for these folks. The city, who claims it wants to help, isn't helping. It's taking a very, and I'm going to use my finger quotes, conservative approach and saying, look, we can't have homeless homes on an overpass of the freeway, for goodness sake. It's not safe, and I could go on. Obviously, they're not paying taxes. They don't own the land. So it's fraught with all kinds of issues. They go on to say this. He says, these houses, this is a councilman, Curran Price, and I'm going to bet you this councilman is a Democrat. He says, I'm getting complaints from constituents who have to walk into the streets to avoid these houses, Price said. And they said authorities destroyed needles, drug setups, even a gun from one or more of the houses and tents during an earlier cleanup. Now, some advocates for the homeless see these single-story structures about the size of a garden shed as a cheap and safer alternative to having homeless sleep on the sidewalks. Now, I'm going to stop there for just a second and ask you, would you want to see a bunch of these little things lined up looking like little, bigger versions of a porta potty? Would you want to see that anywhere? I can't imagine. So I'm giving the city a pass, but I'm not giving the city a pass because the city is a leftist-run city that hasn't given these people opportunity to do other things, nor has it given them an opportunity to get a job. So I'm not going to give them a pass. But the bad news keeps on coming. Here it is. Neighbors and other opponents say that these little houses provide cover for lawlessness and criminal activity. They are only homes for, get this, prostitution, shooting up, and smoking up, said June Ellen Richard, 54, who's lived all her life within 1 block of the freeway overpasses where these little tiny houses are parked. They're on wheels. And so the guy can move them, or, he can move them around, set them up anywhere he wants. And so it's an interesting problem to me in the sense that it's a double problem for the left because they want to make us appear to be the bad guys. But when they run the cities, you see who the so-called bad guys are. I completely agree with the city that you can't have people just arbitrarily setting up camps. And you see as I showed in that other video and talked about the other day on the show, the number of people that, number of needles, it was thousands of pounds of needles. If you can imagine that they cleaned up in that other thing I was talking about before. So I understand it, but leftism doesn't make me understand it. I want them to suffer for their, for the way that they are, because if we were doing it, it would be, look at those Republicans and how heartless and good, how they are, but nobody wants to say anything about these guys. Let's move on. We got another story. Coquito. You know who Coquito is? Yeah. Coquito is a French bulldog who died on a United Airlines flight. And the United Airlines flight attendant is the one who kind of got the dog killed. Now, here's what they had to say. While we were flying, the dog started barking and there was no flight attendant coming. This is the parent of the dog, the parent of the child who owned the dog. He said, we couldn't stand because there was a lot of turbulence and we weren't allowed to, said Sofia Ceballos. By the way, she's speaking on behalf of her mother, a lady named Catalina Robledo, who apparently is not even a citizen of the United States. I mean, I don't know. She might be one of these dreamers. But they said, Ceballos said, attempts to inform the flight attendant of the severity of the situation during the 4-hour flight from Houston to New York were unsuccessful. She said, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was a dog. I thought it was a normal bag. But she says, we told her it was a dog. She's lying. As a little girl, she's teary-eyed as she's explaining the story. So little Coquito, they get on the plane, a mother that barely speaks English and a daughter that does. And the flight attendant says, you got to put that package up above your head. And they're going, but no, it's our dog. It's our dog. No. Put it up above your head. I don't know where the lost in translation occurred, but it obviously occurred. And the tragic accident is something that killed little Coquito. Passenger Maggie Greminger told the New York Times that Robledo was insistent that the dog carrier should stay by her side, but to no avail. The pet owner was very adamant that she did not want to put the pet carrier up above, Greminger said, but she was saying verbally, my dog is in here. No, this is my dog. The flight attendant in response really just continued to ask her to put it above because it was a hazard where it was, a safety hazard. People could trip. So, man, you got to see this little bulldog. He's cute, but here's the deal. Here's the rub, in case you're wondering, Kevin, where are you going with this story? The little dog is jet black. He's black, man. He's blacker than Miles Davis. I think they got a racial lawsuit here. That's what I think. All right, what else we got? Jimmy Kimmel. Well, yes, you guys know he blamed Netflix for his bad Oscar ratings, but his story is even better. It's more interesting. And he talks about his decision to break away from comedy for some serious topics. He said it's a controversial decision, and now he's reflecting on the impact that it's had on his show. And in this article, they let you know it's not positive. According to polls, this is Jimmy Kimmel. According to polls I've seen, it cost me commercially. He confessed to Oprah Winfrey in the latest issue of O Magazine. That's not ideal, but I wouldn't change any of it, Kimmel said. I know my job is for the most part to entertain people and to make them laugh. That said, if I can be selfish every once in a while and talk about something serious that's important to me, then I do want to take that opportunity, Kimmel said. But I don't want to abuse my position. I pick my battles. 90% of the time I will joke around, but some of the jokes, I hope, make people think. Well, they don't, Jimmy. They make people think just how stupid you are. And, you know, no matter how he tries to spin this thing, Jimmy Kimmel has left comedy. He's become a politico. It's going to impact him. And I've already said this. I'll say it again because I want people to know that there are multiple places you can hear this. And if you go to kjradio.com, you can check this out again. Jimmy Kimmel, I don't believe, will be a late night talk show host in 2 years. By the year 2020, Jimmy Kimmel will be gone. The only possibility of Jimmy Kimmel being saved is if he dismisses the talk of politics and goes back to just being funny, trying to be funny and not making it about Trump, then maybe he survives. I feel like one of these Italians. You know, if Jimmy does this, maybe, and I'm saying on his best day, maybe he would survive.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.